Greetings, humans! I'm Galadriel, and I'm here to create fantastical things for your enjoyment and possible edification. Today I'm getting started on making Kelta's costume. That's my co-author's character in the book that's coming out this December. So I'm starting off with the pants, and I'm going to be using this pattern, Folkwear pattern 119, and I'm actually going to be using this one right in the middle here. I'm not using a striped fabric though. Now, because these are pants for a sailor, I thought a lot about what kind of fabric to use. A lot of sailors traditionally in the 17 to 1800s wore pants made out of duck cloth, which was a heavy canvas-like cloth, heavy wearing, and basically it was the precursor to denim. So I'm going to be using denim for this project. I'm actually going to be using my floor as a cutting table today because my cutting table is a little bit inaccessible right now. I'm starting by laying out my pattern. Where are my pins? Where are my pins? Got them down here, immediately misplaced, because that is what I do. I've got it lined up on the fold of the fabric, and I'm going to go ahead and start pinning it in place. Once it's all pinned, I'll go ahead and cut it out. This pattern has a 1/2 inch of seam allowance built in, so I don't have to worry about adding seam allowance before cutting. And I'll go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other side. The pattern also includes gussets. I forgot to film myself cutting those out, but I cut 2 of these pieces as well to add extra space between the legs for ease of movement. Now that I have all my pieces, I'm starting out by pinning the gussets together at the wide end. This is the part that will go right in the middle between the legs. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, pinning together the front and back seams that will go down from the waistband of the pants. On to sewing. The gussets put together, and now the seam of the pants as well. I'm going to go ahead and iron down those seams so that they don't stick up obnoxiously, and get rid of some wrinkles while I'm at it. Now these edges usually should be serged, but I don't have a serger, which leaves me with the option of either French seaming, which I decided not to do on this project, or felling, which would mean folding under all of these little edges right here and stitching them down again. I've hand felled some projects in the past, but it's a pain, so I'm going to do it by machine and not care that the stitches show through on the other side. I'm working on pinning everything into place. Knocking over my pins as usual. Let's give this another try. Everything is pinned, so moving on to machine felling those edges down. So here it is, all felled down, looking lovely. So now I'm pinning the gussets in place. So now that the gussets are attached on one side here, I just need to stitch up this hem, then pin and stitch the other side here, and the pants will be basically done. I'm gonna see how easy it is to do a machine fell stitch on this. We shall see. I might end up having to do some hand felling to get all of these hems down when I get to points where the machine can't reach, especially on the inner seams of the legs, but that's just the nature of the beast, so it shall occur.
And doing more sewing.
So I've got the second side of the gussets stitched up now, but as predicted, of course, there's no way to machine fell this last seam up the insides of the legs, around the gussets, and back down the other side. So I'm going to be pinning again, and this time I will be hand felling. However, since I've already established that it's fine if the stitches show through onto the other side, I don't have to worry about doing a standard felling stitch that's invisible from the front side, and I can just go ahead and do a running stitch, which is going to make this a whole lot faster and easier than the last thing that I hand felled.
So now I'll just iron down the edges and pin down the remainder of the felled seams.
And now comes the boring but relatively relaxing part, where I sit in my cozy chair and throw the dog off my lap and do a lot of hand stitching.
Now that all the felled seams are finished, it's time to pin and stitch the hems around the ankles. And I'm also going ahead and stitching up a waistband at this point. This is going to work as a drawstring. Now comes the fun part of turning this little drawstring. The dowel that I usually use for turning straps was too wide to fit in this drawstring, so I'm just using a little bit of wire that I found in my closet. It is awfully satisfying when you finally get it through and start pulling the other half of it right side out. Now I'm going to get ready for the drawstrings themselves. I am making a couple holes here right in what's going to be the waistband, and I'm going to insert some eyelets to put the drawstring through. The next thing I'll need to do is fold down and stitch this hem. Now that I've done that, I am ready to put the drawstring in place. I'm using a safety pin to fit through and pull that all the way through the little channel that I've left open around the waist. And there it is, all pulled through and done.
So here they are, all finished. I know at the moment they look pretty large and baggy. They are actually supposed to be fairly baggy, not poofy pants, but loose enough that they sort of gather at the waist and then gather to tuck into the boots. So this was a fun project. This was my first time making pants and also my first time working with denim. It wasn't a super challenging project compared to some of the fitted blouses and vests and stuff that I've made before, but it was a lot of fun to try some new techniques and some new materials. So next time I'll be working on the blouse with the mandarin collar and the cuffed sleeves. That'll be a slightly more complex project, but I'm really looking forward to doing that. So stick around, like the video, subscribe to the video if you want to make sure you get notifications of the next one. Until next time, fare thee well.